Good morning, everyone. My name is Beth, and I am with the Education Alliance. The Education Alliance exists to mobilize support for business and community for public schools. And one of the things that we are most passionate about is career readiness. So that's why we do programs like this work-based learning program, so we can connect businesses with students in the school so you can have some career awareness. Today, we are going to be hearing from Alpha Technologies, and we are going to be with Joshua Spence. And at this time, I'd like to hand it over to him. Good
Hey,
morning.
morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. So I get. Okay. I think it should be coming up now. Okay. Does it seem to be you able to see the slides? All right. So thanks for the opportunity to talk to you guys this morning. And I know it's being recorded so it can be used in other classrooms at later dates. So thanks for the introduction and the opportunity to support our local schools through the Education Alliance. Education obviously is extremely important. And working for a technology company, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about technology's role moving forward in education and then in the workforce. So we'll get started. So as Beth indicated, my name is Josh Spence. I serve as the Chief Information Officer for a West Virginia-based technology managed service provider, which I'll explain more about what that means here in a minute. The company's name is Alpha Technologies, and it's been around for over 20 years in West Virginia. What's really important about a managed service provider like Alpha Technologies is here at Alpha, we like to describe that we partner with organizations to transform technology into capability. You don't buy the computer for the sake of having a computer. You buy a computer for a purpose that you have, that you need to use it for a reason. And so Alpha is headquartered in Hurricane, West Virginia, and we have office locations throughout the state. So I want to talk a little bit about Alpha and the areas in which we provide support. So Alpha is an enabling company. We enable technology, and we enable technology in a lot of ways. So one of those ways, here's some of those different lanes in which we would enable technology. For example, communications. We're using communications technology right now. This WebEx is a tool that allows us to interact both visually and through an audio means in all different locations. I'm in a different location than Beth, and you guys are in a different location than both of us. In addition, there are collaboration tools. You might have used some of those tools today. Microsoft Teams is one that's very commonly used. There's others out there like Slack. Those are collaboration tools, and they're very they enable both communication, but then collaboration over digital files, which is the third one. Digital files is any type of formatted file that is in a digital format. So it could be a document, it could be a whole bunch of data in a spreadsheet. It could be I'm going to pause this here because I don't know if it's making noise on your all side. Okay. It could be an image, a video file. Digital files exist in various different formats, and their importance they're extremely important in the world today and how we operate, and management of those files is an important piece. Then we have applications, which of course is the full name for the word app, which you're probably more accustomed to because we refer to apps on our phone, right, or our tablet. But that was always the word applications. It just got shortened to the word apps, and you interface with those in all different types of technology, whether it be a computer like you're sitting in front of, or a phone or a tablet. There's also areas of technology that Alpha supports, like cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is a big issue that you hear about today. because of the cyber risk that we face. In the end, there's a significant amount of cyber risk for a lot of organizations, and that creates a lot of problems for them in the situation of maybe losing sensitive information, or they may suffer a ransomware attack. I don't know if you're familiar with those types of cyber attacks, but a ransomware attack is where the threat actor gains access to their target's systems, and they encrypt all the systems and lock them out and basically keep that organization from operating with that technology, and offer to unlock it if they pay a ransom. There was an incident recently in the healthcare line of the industry that was significantly impactful across the country, because that company itself had a key role in supporting healthcare when it came to how it's processed for financial reasons. The last two we'll talk about are infrastructure. There's infrastructure and technology. So to make those computers work in front of you, they have to connect not only to power, but they connect to a network, whether they connect physically or they connect over a wireless connection. Once they connect to a network, then that network is going to be interconnected at some point likely to the internet, and then from there, the internet is a interconnection of all types of networks. But that back-end infrastructure is required for technology to work. And then the last one I put on the list is one you've probably heard a lot about as of late, and that's artificial intelligence, or AI. There's a very broad category of AI. What's been in the news most recently is what's called generative AI, like ChatGPT, which you've probably heard about. So these are all enabling technologies that Alpha seeks to support in the organizations we partner with. So I just wanted to give a quick high level and then dive into any of these topics that you might want to ask any questions about, and then we'll move into the next part of the presentations.
So while they're thinking of questions, I actually do have a question. I just want to know, out of the list that you gave us, what is your favorite thing out of that list to do? Or what's the thing you're most passionate about? Because it seems like there's a wide range of things you do, but where's your sweet spot that you like?
So I'll talk a little bit. I'll give an example on cybersecurity, because it's where I really focus. My first focus area was in cybersecurity, and one of the challenges around it is people don't understand. They're confused. They're scared. So then they're like, "What do I do?" And my previous position, I worked for the state of West Virginia, and I encountered the question, "Are we secure?" That was a very common question, and I had a hard time answering it because, as you know, if you answer it yes, and then you have a problem, well, they're going to say you were secure. If you answer it no, well, they're going to ask why. But why can't I answer that yes or no? The question's actually the wrong question. And I use this analogy to describe what was the wrong question. Instead, when they would ask me, "Are we secure?" I would say, "Well, before I answer your question, follow with me on this scenario. Pretend instead that I'm the fire marshal and ask me if the building we're in is fireproof." It was a rhetorical question. Most people recognize the buildings we're in are not fireproof, but fire is absolutely a threat. So what do? We put preventive measures in to prevent a fire. We also put responsive measures in should there be an actual fire. So cybersecurity is no different. We manage the risk. There's always risk. You'll never mitigate it down to zero, but you put preventive measures in and you put responsive measures in. So I really liked that I was able to connect to people and help them on that path by being able to explain something highly complex in a way to where it related to what they understood and they could find that path forward.
Thank you for sharing. Do any of the students have questions at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay.
All right. Let's go into technology generally. So we're going to talk a little bit about how I think technology is a common thread because it has been woven into the fabric of the way the world works. You can't really encounter much of anything without a technology tied to it. And this is extremely important because no matter what career path you choose, you're going to interface with technology. Now, some career paths you might interface with technology it might be limited, and it may be only in certain situations, and your interface might be in a basic way. But then other careers, you're going to have a heavy use of technology. So you're going to have to, be prepared to interface with it in your career path. So what I've put up here is just a list of some sectors. It's not all of the industries or sectors in which you might end up working in, but any of these all have technology involved. I'll pick one just randomly: retail, right? So commonly, right, everybody's aware of Amazon.com. Everybody goes to Amazon. I don't generally say everybody goes to Amazon to buy stuff. It is retail, but to enable that online e-commerce, there's a whole component of technology behind it. But that's just enabling the website or the app on your phone to be able to go search and find the product you're looking for and then buy it. But all components of how Amazon operates are still based in technology. When it comes to the financial transaction of you spending your money, that all that money gets transacted through technology and then accounted and audited, all in technology tools. The logistics of getting the whatever you bought from wherever it's at to you at your front door is a logistics question that is all managed and driven through technology. Now, there are people involved, absolutely, people doing pieces of the work, but they interface technology through all of that process. So whether you're going into the medical field, legal field, if you go into manufacturing, and even the creative and the arts, you're going to regularly interface with technology, and it's going to be important to understand how to interface with it and to be very proficient in using it. So Alpha supports, this is kind of a neat thing about working for a company like Alpha Technologies. Even though I'm in a technology sector, I get to interface and support entities or organizations across all different types of sectors. So it's pretty neat role to be in, because you get to understand aspects of the different lanes without actually being dedicated to a specific sector. So that's a pretty neat way in which Alpha gets to operate, being in the lane that we're in. So are there any questions about the technology sectors or any career in which you might be considering, and how technology might interface with it?
Do most of them require a 2 or 4 year education degree, or can you learn on the job through some of the training that your company provides?
So yeah, that's a great question. It's all of the above. One of the really cool things about technology and how education has adapted is you could go a lot of different paths to get into a career, and to get into a career like that I'm in with Alpha Technologies. We do bring on staff that come out of a high school or a trades program, and they can then move on a career path that takes them further. 2 years very common as well. You specialize in a specific aspect of technology and bring that specialization in as your foundational knowledge, and you build the career from that point. And then there are 4-year degree programs that start at a more advanced level, whether it's data scientist or software engineer, those types of roles that then have a 4-year degree program behind it. The really advantage thing is you have opportunities to continue to do training and education throughout your career. And a lot of organizations, to include Alpha, offer their employees ways to do that. So you might start in one lane, focusing in one area, and then find that your passion is somewhere in an aligned area, and you might be able to easily work your way over into that career path. And I see that happen quite a bit.
So I have a question. What made you want to go into technology? Was that your chosen career path when you were in high school, like the students we're talking to today?
That's a great question. So I'm a product of shifting later in life. I actually was going to 4-year school to earn a political science degree, which I did obtain, with a plan to go to law school. and life happened and I did not do that. And, but I was also, I had an opportunity where I was a member of the Air National Guard. So I'm in the Air Force, and I had a job opportunity to switch from what I was doing, which is in the Air Force is called security forces, which is a security law enforcement role, over into what we call communications or cyber. And I was able to make that pivot into that role at that time in my military career, which opened up technology to me in a way that I had never seen it. And I found that that's where my passion was. And I just went after it from there and continued my education and training in that path.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Okay. Well, if we have more questions that relate to career or anything, we can absolutely get into those. Let's talk a little bit about the next section here. That was the question A there. Here we go. We're going to talk about problem solving skills. So this is important to no matter what job you're in, no matter what career you're in, but we're going to take a little bit of a focus of problem solving skills when it comes to technology. And so we're going to start by, I'm going to indicate that, technology is a tool. And that your proficiency with the tool matters. So, of course, I've got a picture of the hammer, which we've probably all could readily identify that that's a hammer. And high likelihood most people have used a hammer at least once in their life, or at least are aware enough to say, okay, I know that's a hammer, and I would use that to drive in a nail or to pull a nail. But I don't think any of us would claim, unless they have a hobby in this, of doing carpentry, that we're highly proficient with the hammer. And if we had a carpenter who uses a hammer every day, and we watch their ability to drive nails and then use the tool in ways that might not be obvious, they would probably surprise us and be like, wow, that you can do a lot of different things with a hammer I never realized. And their ability to drive a nail would be a lot faster than someone with low proficiency that only ever uses it, on occasion. So proficiency matters with technology, and your problem solving skill of understanding that with technology also matters. So we're going to talk about analytical thinking and root cause analysis. So root cause analysis is extremely important when you're in a role like I am with technology enabler, because we're solving when technology is not working the way it's intended. When something's not working the way it's intended, we need to understand why. And so you seek to understand the problem, and you want to actually get to the cause of the problem. And that's what they mean by when they say root cause. The issue that comes into play is if you end up identifying what you think is the cause, but it's only a symptom of the problem, and you're not solving the root cause, what happens is the problem comes back. And so I'll give you a practical example. So for example, let's say there is a printer that's not working, and the solution at the time is we'll restart the printer, and all of a sudden it prints again. That's great, it's working again. But if that wasn't the root cause, and let's say it wasn't, let's say it had something to do with the print server instead, and simply restarting the server just temporarily resolved that, and now the print server causes the problem again later, well, the printer's not working again. So then what does the person do? Well, they go and restart the printer again, because that fixes it. But again, it only fixes and the symptom. It doesn't actually solve the root cause. And so that problem is going to continue to exist until that circumstance has changed. So it's really important to do true root cause analysis, or you run into an issue where you're not truly solving the problem. I'm going to talk quickly about the concept of the 5 whys. I'm not sure if you've ever encountered this before, but there's this analysis idea of the 5 whys method. And what it does is it's meant to challenge you to drill down into the specifics and not kind of cheat and just generally say, well, the problem is whatever. It makes you ask the question why 5 times. So you ask the question, you get an answer, and then you ask why to that answer, and you continually do that 5 times. It encourages deep thinking, and hopefully the intent is it leads to insights and solutions so that you can actually get to a root cause. And then I want to talk one more before we get into the actual practical exercise, and that's the introduction to Occam's razor. So you might have heard of this before, you may not. There's a concept called Occam's razor, which is a philosophical argument that you should give preference if you have two competing theories of why, of something, whatever it might be, and you have two competing theories, you give preference to the simple over the complex. And the main reason for this is it's easier to test the simple. If you test the simple, you can then determine if it's right or eliminate it and then move to the next potential. So Occam's razor is very commonly, it's taught and it's used in root cause analysis, especially in IT. So with those concepts, let's look at the benefits and the limitations here. So these things are pretty simple and easy to use. They all promote deep thinking and they help you identify the root cause. There are some limitations when you use these approaches. They can oversimplify complex problems. It does rely on the knowledge and perspective of the participants, and it may not always lead to a clear and single root cause. So we have to work through those as understandings of these methods. So let's move into the practical exercise piece. So I'm going to give you the scenario, and where you can work however it's up to you. It's up to you guys, whatever makes sense, but work either individually or in groups to analyze the scenario and conduct the 5 whys to explore the potential problem. And I'm relying on your ability to understand technology generally, not in a very deep way, but you're trying to point at where you would look to understand where do you think the source of the problem is? That's ultimately what you're wanting to understand. Where's the source, the likely source of the problem? And so don't overthink it. Give this a try, and we're going to go through 3 phases. I'll give you some details, and then we're going to pause and ask if there's any questions or comments, and then we'll give more details, and then we'll do it one more time. So we'll work through this relatively quickly. So here's your scenario. So it's exam day for high school students in West Virginia. Unfortunately, it is being reported that the state testing platform is, quote, not working. No additional specific details provided. Your task is to do an initial broad investigation of where you think the source of the problem could be using the 5 whys technique. And I will make the comment. I don't know if that's unfortunate from your all's perspective, if this scenario was true and the testing system wouldn't work, but maybe from the teacher's perspective. So, all right, so I'll pause here. We'll give a few minutes for you to, again, work individually or work in groups, however you're directed.
Is there any way you go back to the screen that explains the 5 whys just to look at it?
Yes.
That might be helpful. Thank you.
I think it's right here.
Okay.
So one of the suggestions in the group was to see, is the internet working? So do they have the functionality to access other platforms?
Jump back forward here.
Is the system working on different devices? So is it like an iPad issue compatibility, or is it a desktop? Do you guys have any others? So it's exam day, reported the statewide platform is not working.
Maybe too many people are trying to get on at once.
Is too many people accessing it at the same time? Geographical, is it like more so in one region than the other? What other places are experiencing it? I think we're at a standstill.
All right, no, that's great. That's great. And those were great suggestions. That's exactly how you start asking those questions in a scenario like this. So I'm going to give you a little bit more detail. I think I got just a slide here that we would discuss, which we just did. And so then the next bit of detail is that it's working for some students, but not for others. How does that change your whys?
So it must not be the internet. What else? Possibly it could still be the device. He said, what if some of them are Wi-Fi connected and some of them are hardwired?
Yep.
Yes, and then still we could go geographically, like is it working for some students in one region or one part of the county, but not in others, or? Say about it.
Still could be too many people are trying to join it.
Maybe it's still reached its maximum participants.
I'll throw one out. Maybe the students that it's not working for have like an incorrect password or incorrect something they're inputting.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. That was the discussion slide. So are they any other ideas, or do we want the last bit of detail?
Servers are working, or don't hold enough capacity.
They're leaning toward the servers and the capacity.
Okay. Yep. We ready for the next piece? Are they still discussing?
We're good.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the last piece of detail. All right, so the issue appears to only be impacting 11th graders.
Maybe an 11th grader hacked the system. Maybe it's a programming error. Whoever input the data for the juniors missed a coding step or something. Anything else that would impact the only 11th graders? She's saying it, maybe it's something with the test itself. Not necessarily the user error, but the platform. maybe by the time the 11th graders started taking the test, the other students were already logged on, so there's the capacity limitation.
Maybe there's too many 11th graders.
Too many 11th graders. Think we're intrigued to find out the result.
So those are great paths forward to take in the detail that was provided. And so the way so there's no true answer in the sense that I made up the scenario, but I will tell you that I made up the scenario that in the platform itself, the group, there would be a group of users around for each grade, but there was an error in the platform for that group. And that's why it was impacting only the 11th graders. But what I think was really important, and you in the class did a great job on identifying, was there's a lot of different things that could have been wrong when you only had the information, it's not working. But as soon as you had one more bit of detail, you went immediately away from, well, it's not likely the internet because someone can get to the application. And so being able to ask the right questions to get to the right whys is really important in root cause analysis. And then trying to always hold to the Occam's razor of start with the simple, because usually the simple can be tested. So another example is, let's say it was just an individual having a problem on an online application on a computer. A simple way is, if they're in a classroom lab environment, is to have them try a different computer. And by doing so, now we're assessing to determine if the fault or the issue is on that individual computer. So this is how a lot of people in IT have to operate regularly. And it gets even more complicated than the scenario, not to go deep into that, but it gets more complicated in that you're basing it on the information that you're given sometimes, not that you can't always obtain yourself. People are relaying information to you. And you've probably heard of the telephone game and how information can get messed up in that context. And then you're also dealing with other variables. Other things could be going wrong that have no correlation to each other, but yet they could be presenting you information that you have to then parse out. And so it can be challenging at times depending on the complexity of what you're dealing with. So you absolutely approached it in the right way. And I think that's great. I did see here, right, so experiencing difficulties, it suggests the issues related to something unique to that student's, perhaps a configuration setting. So really good job on the doing the 5 whys and walking through that. So I think the next one is a Q&A slide and I think this is going to be, I think, the last set of questions before we close out for the presentation. So
do any of the students have any more questions? Perhaps questions about, a career in technology. I know you guys, this particular class is in an office management class. Is there, something that correlates to that you would like to know? Is there anyone in the class that's considering a career that's technology driven or in the IT field?
He was asking about working from home, the opportunities.
Yeah, great question. Telework or remote work are definitely opportunities within a lot of different career fields. Technology is one that we see a higher opportunity for that to exist. You're interfacing with technology primarily to do your jobs. And as you can see with what we're doing in the Zoom, there are just a number of tools that enable that to work. So yeah, that's a very common opportunity with a lot of work flexibility, whether it's telework, remote work, and then sometimes adjusting your own schedule where you've got work that you have to complete each day, but when you complete it could be up to your schedule. So you see that in some IT roles where maybe they're not a morning person and they want to go do some stuff in the morning and they don't start work until 11, or they work in the morning and then take a long break in the middle of the day and then go back to work later in the afternoon. So yeah, flexibility is a great advantage.
Anybody else have any more questions?
Are there any internships or observation opportunities to shadow?
Yeah, Alpha Technology has opportunities. We bring on interns, and although I don't know if I've been with the company about 7-8 months, I don't know if we've done any shadow opportunity, but that's something we should look into because yeah, we're open to help and support our schools and the education lines and helping students know about what career opportunities they have.
I have a question. Why is it that IT people always ask you to turn something off and to get it to work? And I know you touched on that briefly. You were talking about the printer, you were given a scenario with that, but it just seems to be with everything, if you turn it off and back on again, and the IT people are the ones that say this. So if you could elaborate a little bit more on why that happens.
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So you do hear that a lot. Have you tried turning it on and off again? And we do start with that a lot, but there's a really good reason why. So if we think about how to, and this is just kind of an overly simplified analogy of a computer processor and how the processors operate, but picture a map of like a large city like New York or something like that, like New York City. So you've got all of these interconnecting streets, highly complex, to get from point A to point B, right? So when a computer's trying to perform a specific function, it may need to take a specific route, meaning it needs to go 2 blocks forward and then make a right, go 3 blocks forward, make a left, make a right, and make another left. So it's got to follow that very specific path. What sometimes happens is the computer has a point A and a point B. It's not actually starting at point A and it doesn't realize it. So it doesn't realize it knows it's supposed to start at point A, but it doesn't realize it's not at point A when it's starting the process. It runs that route, but it's not ending up at point B. And when you restart the device, you give the computer a chance to get aligned correctly in that process. So that's a really oversimplified example, but it's very true in how computer processors operate, that restarting of the device allows it to get a reset and it can follow the path it knows it's supposed to follow, but it's now starting from the right point.
That's really interesting. Kind of like people. Sometimes we have to have a reset if there's too much going on.
Yep, absolutely.
Are there any more questions before we finish up? Okay, I don't think so. Is there any last comments that you want to make, Josh?
I just want to thank the opportunity for coming and having a conversation with you guys. Good luck. I know I think I heard from the beginning that this class specifically is full of seniors. Go find what you're really good at doing, and whatever you're really good at doing, you'll have a passion for. And there's a lot of opportunity to take what your passion is and find that career you're looking for. So good luck and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all this with us. Okay, everyone, have a great day. Thank you.